To some of this target might seem an impossibility or a very ambitious goal, but I'm convinced that this can be done.
But we want to know how. Welcome back to The Fix. I'm Karima Brown. That was, of course, Minister Jeff Radebe, our big hitter tonight, sounding determined to reach his target. This week, he pledged the energy sector will provide a quarter of President Ramaphosa's $100 billion foreign investment target. Joining me now to continue the conversation is Sunday Times columnist Peter Bruce. Peter.
Yeah, well, he set himself quite an ambitious goal, Karima. And I just wanted to clear one thing up with you, ministers, just to, you know, for the sixth time to ask you the same question. Your cabinet colleague, Edna Molewa, the Minister of Environment, was saying the other day categorically that 9.6 gigawatts of nuclear was in our future. You're saying that it's still to be decided because you don't have an IRP out yet and you've given yourself until August. Is she talking out of turn or does she know what's going on?
No, she's not talking out of turn. I think she's referring to the IRP of 2010 that talked about the 9,600 megawatts from nuclear. But the IRP for 2018 has not yet been determined about the split of all the energy sources that we're going to be putting in. So
you've got 2 months to go. I mean, you must be pretty close to knowing what happens to this nuclear 9.6 gigawatts.
There is importance of consultation, as we all know that the process is as important as the content. So that question will be answered when you see the IRP that's going to be released.
Can I ask one last question about this then? Can we do without it?
Well, right now we've got almost 2,000 megawatts of electricity that is generated via nuclear in the Koeberg power station in Cape Town.
Yeah, and do we need any more?
Well, it depends how the mix is going to end up when we release the document in August of this year.
Peter, I want to come in here. You know, I was at your roundtable, your stakeholder discussion on Friday, Minister, and you said, of course, that, as I said earlier, that nuclear makes up 5%, but yes, you were very complimentary about the extent to which it serves nuclear medicine, for example. You were talking about the fact that we are serving over 60 countries, we are saving millions of lives. If one were to take from that a subtext, I got the distinct impression that A, you were impressed with nuclear and that you wanted to be a bigger part of the mix. Did I get it wrong?
Maybe, maybe not. But what I was trying to convey there was that as a country, we have a cutting-edge technology via nuclear of providing nuclear medicine across the globe, where about 52% of the world market of supply of nuclear medicine comes from here in South Africa, in Pelindaba, in Pretoria. So that's the point I was trying to convey, because many South Africans are fixated with this issue of a nuclear program, forgetting the other useful purposes that are very beneficial to patients around the world and also to ours in South Africa.
In fact, talking about what you spoke on Friday, let's just take a listen and a look at what you had to say.
To some of this target might seem an impossibility or a very ambitious goal, but I'm convinced that this can be done.
Now, of course, you are, as you've said, very, very determined, and you base this on the fact that the independent power producers did so well. But there was a lot of opposition to that. Peter, you know, you had spoken to me earlier about the fact that unions, for example, had a problem with it around jobs in coal that's
well,
going to be affected.
Losing coal
exactly.
Jobs, yeah.
Minister, how are you going to deal with these contending issues?
Well, I think the first point that needs to be clarified, the renewables are not in opposition to coal. Number two, that the job losses in the coal industry have nothing to do with renewables, because renewables are not in opposition to coal. In fact, there's a coal IPP that is unfolding as we speak. Eskom is already building Medupi and Kusile, which is a coal-fired power plant in South Africa. So that perception is not correct. What is correct is that we are committed to renewables, because even all our social partners, business, government, labor, civil society via NETLEC agreed on the Green Energy Summit in 2011, where it was clearly articulated even the goals of renewables in South Africa, and all the major unions were part of that process.
The 1 quarter of the 100 billion that you're looking for, that's $25 billion, which is about 350 billion rand, if I'm not mistaken, right? So you've got about, if you're doing 57 billion rand per bid window, and you've got another window for an IPP window in November, would that be as big as the others have been, or what are your expectations for that?
Well, I should not create an impression that this quarter of $100 billion will come from the renewables.
No, this is
Also
what I'm
other
trying to get. I'm
sectors.
trying to add it up to see how we get to 350 possibly.
Well, over and above the issue of renewables, I'm talking with the oil majors individually, but also as a collective, as part of SAPIA. So all of them are committed into this goal. So that is why there's a consultation that is taking place of how we can make energy to reignite growth in South Africa.
And the oil majors,
it's not only a government thing, but it's also going to be a partnership with the private
Minister,
sector.
would the oil majors, as part of their investment, modernize their refineries in this country? I mean, that's a real problem that we have here, because we're unable to make clean fuels. I think you've pointed that out yourself. There's a lot of investment due to go into refineries in this country. Would that be also where some of this foreign investment would go?
Yes, definitely. We've spoken about that in specific terms. Already the oil majors are going to be providing me with their thoughts about how this can be done.
Right.
Now, one of the big questions around energy, of course, is the question around sustainability and the fact that energy is a global issue, and we've committed ourselves, of course, to targets around clean forms of energy. Our refineries aren't very good at manufacturing clean energy. How are you going to go about that, and what kind of consultation process have you set in place with environmental groups who've raised very, very key concerns around the kinds of energies that we produce? For example, our coal is not particularly clean, if you like. How are you going to go about involving the environmental sector?
Well, they were committed to environmental standards, were signatories to the Paris Accord and other international agreements via the Department of Environment. I've already had discussions with the oil majors on this matter. They are committed to doing this thing, but the issue of affordability, so that's where things are now. How are we going to be able to succeed in ensuring that we are compliant with all these international obligations? But the determination is there to ensure. That's why I was saying that we have to look at the combination of things, including PPPs.
Now, I've looked at your energy, plan. There's a lot of assumptions that goes into the plan, because it looks right up to 2050. It's got assumptions around the kinds of rates at which the economy is going to grow, the kind of job creation, plans that are there, and then, of course, also the finances. We've come through a very, very bad period. We've dealing with issues around state capture. We're dealing with issues around corruption. And of course, we've had to, revise our growth targets downward. To what extent are you able to work with actual data, genuine data, that will make your plan an informed one? Because already on just the fact that the economy is not taking off as it was initially suggested in that look to 2050 is creating a major, problem just in terms of planning. So what kind of reorganization are you involved in to make your energy plan a realistic one?
It will be realistic, because all the technical information will be subjected to a policy adjustment program of government. That's why this internal policy adjustment consultation within government and also with outside people, so that we come with a realistic plan for the future of South Africa. So I'm very confident that we can be able to reach that.
Just in terms of realistic, we've been talking for a long time now about shale gas. And I don't think we've dug a hole yet. Maybe people have in the Karoo. It's hard to tell. But surely some of the investment that you're talking about, if you wanted to get to 350 billion rand, you'd get it very quickly in shale gas.
Yes, part of the plan, that one, you recall that my cabinet colleague, the Minister of Mineral Resources, in his budget vote, he spent a lot of time talking about the issue of shale gas. So it is time that we move now towards the execution of those exploration of shale gas. So we are going to be working together to make sure that that is implemented.
Minister, I'm going to ask the final question. You're talking about consultation, you're talking about still having to define the mix. Cyril Ramaphosa is telling the entire world that South Africa is a destination of choice for investment because there's policy certainty. But it's absolutely clear that we are far from having any certainty on what our energy plan is.
No. I think your conclusion is misplaced. As I've said, there is policy certainty. We're committed to renewables. We're committed in order to ensure that we have this program of a gas-to-power program. We're committed to the investment that the President has highlighted. In August, we'll be having an integrated resource plan on the table indicating how we move forward in order to ensure that this energy plays a catalyst for growth and investment.
Thank you so very much, Minister Jeff Radebe. Up next, we look ahead. We'll have a panel of journalists who will prepare us for what we'll all be talking about next week.